The death is announced of Marie Josephine Quinlan Didier, also known as Ma Didier, Miss Ruby, or Teacher Didier of Bridge Street, Soufrière, who passed away on Saturday 8th December at Victoria Hospital at 6:48 a.m. at the age of 91. She was a retired school teacher of Soufrière. She was predeceased by her husband Felix Didier and her daughter Martha Didier Charles. Left to mourn, her daughters, Mrs. Bertilia Favrier, teacher at Soufrière Comprehensive School, Miss Alex Didier Daniels, radiology supervisor, Downstate Medical Center, Brooklyn, New York, Mrs. Dionysia Didier Herman in Texas, Mrs. Marcia Didier Commission, manager of Dunn Reed Pharmacy, Brooklyn, New York, Miss Camille Koeman, also known as Annette, and family in Holland. Sons-in-law: Mr. Christopher Favrier, teacher at the Soufrière Comprehensive Secondary, Mr. Carl Commission in Brooklyn, New York, Mr. Roger Herman in Texas. Sisters: Mrs. Jane Quinlan Bourne, past principal of the Leon Hess Secondary School, retired education officer of secondary schools, ex-senator. Ms. Terry Quinlan in Barbados. Brother: Randolph Quinlan of La Panse, Castries. Granddaughters: Dr. Chaffo Favrier, attached to the Victoria Hospital. Mrs. Adwalia Favrier Pole, medical student at the International American Hospital. Mrs. Tiffany Daniels Alcid, IT manager of cardiology, New York University Hospital. Mrs. Christy Daniels Felix in New York, special education teacher. Miss Yasmin Daniels, doctoral candidate, professor, Hunt College, New York. Miss Coseline Charles, student teacher at the Division of Teacher Education at Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. Miss Sonia Koeman and family in Holland. Stepdaughter: Benita Lester and family in Curacao. Grandsons: Mr. J. Daniels, IT specialist, New York University Hospital. Mr. Kozef Charles of Castries. Brother-in-law: Mr. Peter Phillip, taxi driver of Cedars, Castries. Sisters-in-law: Mrs. Dorina Jonas and family of Ocean View, Cicerone. Miss Monica Cassidy in New York. Cousin and goddaughter: Mrs. Curl Alce and family of Bay Street, Soufrière. Caretakers: Miss Keisha Henry of La Perle, Soufrière. Mrs. Cecilia Stephen of Fort Saint-Jacques, Soufrière. Great-grandchildren: Micaiah Alcid and Lane Felix in Brooklyn, New York. Twinkle Charles and Star Charles of Castries. Also left to mourn other relatives and friends, especially the Quinlan family of Castries and Vieux, the Didier family of Castries and Soufrière, Mr. and Mrs. Marcella Calix and family of Bridge Street, Soufrière, Mr. and Mrs. Leo Charles and family of Bridge Street, Soufrière, Mrs. Angela Lawrence, corner of High Street and Bridge Street, Soufrière, neighbors and friends of Upper Bridge Street, Soufrière, including the guys on the block, the mothers and fathers group of Soufrière, many other relatives and friends too numerous to mention. The funeral service for the late Marie Josephine Quinlan Didier, also known as Ma Didier, Miss Ruby or Teacher Didier, will be held at Our Lady of the Assumption, Soufrière, on Saturday, December 15, 2012 at 2 p.m., and thence to the Soufrière Cemetery for burial. The body now lies at Lazarus Funeral Parlor, New Dock Road, Vieux. The family would like to inform all well-wishers that they would like to mourn in private after the funeral service.